Revealed, 7 sinister secrets of a haunted cabin in the Appalachian woods that left me terrified. The moment Hannah turned down the overgrown dirt path, she felt that prickling sensation crawl up her spine. The old sedan sputtered and choked, groaning like it sensed something waiting deep in the looming woods. Shadows draped over her, heavy and thick, as if the trees themselves were stretching out their dark limbs to clutch her, to pull her away from the world she'd known, a world that felt light compared to the encroaching gloom. Tommy, all of 8 years old, sat in the back seat, his face pressed against the dusty glass, eyes wide with a mix of excitement and fear. "Mom, are we almost there?" he asked, his voice breaking the tension like a sharp crack of thunder. She offered a shaky smile, hoping to conceal her own stomach-churning dread. This was supposed to bring them closer, to mend the broken pieces of her past and give Tommy the family he longed for. But she felt the air grow heavier as the asphalt disappeared, traded for the dirt path that twisted into the heart of the Appalachian woods. "Everything will be all right," she assured, gripping the steering wheel with her sweaty palms, though doubt gnawed at her insides like a ravenous beast. Just as hope began to flicker, the car sputtered again. Silence fell. The engine died and uncertainty settled in like the creeping fog outside. Not far down the road, a figure emerged, waving, and Hannah's heart skipped. A wave of relief washed over her. But as Sheriff Collins approached, his wide grin didn't quite reach his eyes. He leaned against the car, probing her with his gaze. "You two ain't from around here, are you?" His voice dripped with a laid-back drawl, but something in his demeanor made Hannah uneasy. Why did he look at them like that? Muffled whispers seemed to curl from the trees around them, unsettling and ominous. She felt as if the woods were alive, staring, weighing her options, as if they were part of something sinister. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As she tried to shake off the weird feeling, Sheriff Collins offered to guide them to the cabin. With a shared glance, she felt compelled to trust him. As they approached the cabin, dread coiled in her stomach. The place appeared watching, shrouded in shadows, the windows darkened as if they knew the secrets buried within. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, and the stories she'd heard about the property began to echo in her mind. Families torn apart, whispers of curses fading through time. Inside, the thrill of rediscovery began to twist into horror as she uncovered old newspaper clippings, the words like knife wounds, mysterious disappearance of local family, the legend of the cursed cabin. Each headline felt like a taunt, an echo of her own fractured family history. They began to suffocate her, each tick of the clock amplifying the darkness. When Tommy stumbled upon the faded drawing beneath the dust, her heart sank. The family, a harrowing sketch of joy, had their eyes XD out, mocking her desire for connection. And then came the whispers, the walls tightening around them, clawing at the edges of her sanity. Shadows danced, twisting through the corners of her vision, mocking her efforts to make this work. When the sheriff returned late that night, worry nestled deep in her chest. What had she brought them into? The storm outside rumbled, and she sensed a storm not just in the air but brewing inside the cabin. Something was awakening in the depths of the woods, and she realized this was not just a family trip. No, it felt like a trap. As thunder cracked and the door rattled in its frame, a thought hammered through her mind. Who could she truly trust in this place? The weight of her father's past pressed down on her, and with it came an unspeakable foreboding. Something terrible awaited them, and the worst part. She could feel it creeping closer. What had she unleashed by stepping foot in this cursed abode? The storm raged outside, sheets of rain beating against the roof like frantic fingers trying to claw their way in. Hannah clutched Tommy closer, her nerves crackling with every echo of thunder. Shadows flickered in the corners of the room, dancing with a life of their own, and the oppressive silence that filled the cabin felt suffocating. "Mom, I'm scared," Tommy whispered, his voice trembling. She looked down at him, eyes wide in the dim light of the flickering lantern they had set up. It felt like they were in a different world, a world where time itself was afraid to tread. "Shoo, it's all right, honey," she replied, though her own heart was pounding with the unshakable feeling that something was watching. The cabin felt like a living thing, breathing around them, tightening its grip. The sheriff's earlier words echoed in her mind. "You two ain't from around here." What had he meant? Why had he lingered so long in their presence? A knot twisted in her stomach as she recalled the way he had looked at them, eyes glinting with something deeper than mere curiosity. Just then, the electricity flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. Hannah's breath caught in her throat. "I'll get the flashlight," she said, trying to mask her own rising panic. She stumbled around for their pack, her hands shaking as she fumbled for any semblance of comfort in the cold, damp air. "Mom!" Tommy's voice was urgent, desperate. "There's a light in the woods. Look." Hannah turned to where he pointed, squinting to catch a glimpse. A faint glow flickered beyond the cabin's rotting windows, moving through the trees like a will-o'-the-wisp. It called to her, beckoning with a seductive pull. A dread deeper than fear nestled in her bones, whispering that they were not alone. "It's probably just lightning," she said, forcing her voice steady. "Just stay close to me." Her heart raced as the glow grew brighter, resolutely slicing through the black around them. The whispers returned, curling through the gaping void of silence, weaving tales of despair and caution. "Mom, it looks like someone's coming," Tommy said, tugging at her sleeve. Hannah's heart pounded harder. "Let us lock the door, okay?" The thought of facing whatever was creeping out there sent cold shivers down her spine. She moved to the old wooden door, hands fumbling with the rusty latch. Just as she secured it, the shadows inside seemed to swirl, coiling tighter around them. The flickering lantern illuminated the room just enough to catch a glimpse of something dark lurking in the corner, a murmuring presence that brought the hair on her neck to attention. "Mom!" Tommy screamed, pointing. She turned, and in that moment, the shadows pulled away, revealing an old figure standing in the doorway, a man with a face etched deep in lines of sorrow and rage, eyes gleaming with a sadistic thirst. "Why are you here?" His voice was gravelly, like stones scraping against each other, heavy with bitterness. Hannah's blood ran cold as understanding dawned. This was no ordinary man. He was a ghost of the cabin's cursed history, lingering from a time when love twisted into despair, and vengeance brewed like a storm in the shadows. Tommy tugged harder at her arm, panic surging. "Mom, I want to go home." The figure took a step closer. "You have awakened us," he said, and the walls of the cabin seemed to shudder, reverberating with the weight of his words. "You should never have come back." No longer could she deny the darkness around them. The cabin pressed into her mind, and the storm outside felt trivial compared to the tempest brewing inside. As the walls whispered secrets long buried, Hannah felt trapped, her breath shallow. What had she brought her son into? The past had a way of clawing back, and now it was rising to claim them. "Run, Mom!" Tommy shouted, and for the first time, fear carved urgency deep in her bones. Where could they go? All she could do was move toward the shadows. Somewhere, beyond the reach of the ghostly man, a path may still lead them back to safety or deeper into the abyss, but as they rushed past him, the dark figure only smiled wider, his eyes reflecting a malevolent promise. "You can't escape." None have ever escaped. With dread pooling in her stomach, Hannah felt time collapse around them. The cabin was alive and hungry, and the only way out seemed to disappear into darkness. What had she unleashed in the cursed cabin? Hannah bolted towards the end of the cabin, clutching Tommy's small hand. The floor creaked ominously beneath them, each step echoing like a warning. Outside, the storm raged on, the thunder drowning out anything that might offer comfort. She glanced back. The figure was still there, his presence stretching across the room like a dark cloud. "Look for a window," Hannah shouted, desperation thick in her voice. She had to get them out. The very air around her weighed heavy, thick with dread. They stumbled over furniture, their hearts racing as they felt the eyes of the dead man burning into their backs. Tommy was crying now, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Mom, I'm scared. I want to go home. Please." Each plea bore into her heart like ice. "I know, sweetie, just hold on." She pushed open the door at the far end of the cabin and yanked it hard. The wood resisted, then finally gave way, flinging them into the night where the rain lashed against their faces. The wind howled, urging them deeper into the woods. For a moment, Hannah thought they'd escaped until she heard the echo of laughter trailing behind them, sickly sweet and taunting. It rang out among the trees, interwoven with the rustle of bushes and the crackling branches above. Her chest tightened, fear wrapping around her, squeezing the air from her lungs. "Mom, what's that?" Tommy's voice quivered with anxiety. "I don't know." She fixed her gaze ahead, where the forest loomed dark and ghostly. She had to keep moving. Just keep running. They plunged into the night, dodging branches that reached out like skeletal fingers. The trees whispered of secrets she didn't want to hear. With every gust of wind, Hannah envisioned the figure's hollow eyes watching her, judging her. Why had they come back here? Why had she thought they could find peace in memories that twisted like briars? Suddenly, the underbrush rustled. Something was moving behind them. Cold terror prickled her skin. "Run faster," she urged, feeling a tremor ripple through the ground under their feet. Panic surged when she heard a sudden snap of a branch, followed by a raspy voice that seemed to echo within the shadows. "You can't escape us, Hannah, we will catch you." Tommy stumbled, and she quickly scooped him up, holding him tightly against her chest. "Just don't look back," she warned, her heart racing against the fever pitch of supernatural threats closing in on them. They pressed on, adrenaline pulsing through their veins. The light from the cabin flickered faintly behind them, nearly washed away by the downpour. They could not let it draw them back, into that suffocating darkness again. Hannah's brain raced with memories. She couldn't remember how far she had run or where they were headed. The woods twisted and turned, unfamiliar shapes looming with every flash of lightning. Her feet ached, her breath came in shallow gulps. Just as hope began to flicker, a distant sound emerged from beyond the thicket. "Mom! Look!" Tommy pointed ahead, his little voice breaking through the chaos. A soft light bounced among the trees ahead, illuminating a path that cut through the darkness. It looked inviting, even warm. "Let us go." Hannah ran toward it, her heart screaming at her instincts. But deep down, a feeling bloomed: something wasn't right. The light seemed to shift, almost beckoning them in. As they approached, her heart plunged into a void, recognizing the sickly sweet scent of decay in the air. The shadows warped and shimmered against that deceptive warmth. It felt like a trap, pulling them closer with every step. "Don't go in there, Mom!" Tommy cried, clutching her tighter, but Hannah was drawn, her feet carried by invisible hands. The light flickered wildly, twisting into angry shapes. "Come play," the voice chanted, melodic and laced with a sinister laughter. She hesitated, confusion swirling in her mind. Just then, the world shifted, the light bursting into 1,000 shards that pierced the very air around them. In an instant, they were engulfed in a blinding flash. When it faded, Hannah found herself in the cabin's living room once again, with the figure standing silently before them, a chilling smile spreading across his face. "How nice of you to return," he whispered, as the walls began to close in, shadows dancing in eager anticipation. Hannah felt frozen, the weight of realization crashing down upon her. They weren't just caught in a storm, they were ensnared in an endless cycle of horror. There was no escape from the clutches of the past, but what haunted them now, even more terrifying than the figure, was the possibility that the very essence of the cabin wished to claim them both as its own. Would they merely join the countless others who had vanished in this sinister embrace? As her breath hitched in her throat, Hannah felt the pull of the shadows at her back tightening. How long before they ran out of options? Were they truly trapped, forever part of the cabin's cursed tale? Then, from the corner of her eye, a new figure emerged, faint and flickering, watching them with hollow eyes, but this one seemed to be reaching out to her. Hannah's heart pounded as she turned to face the new figure, confusion sweeping over her. It flickered like a candle caught in a draft, the features indistinct, but the expression was clear, an echo of despair mixed with an earnest plea. "Please help us," it whispered, its voice a fragile thread weaving through the shadows. "Who are you?" Hannah stammered, instinctively pressing Tommy closer against her. The cabin felt alive, the walls inching toward them as the chill deepened. "I'm one of them," the apparition replied, its form twisting like smoke. "I wanted to escape too. But they wouldn't let me go." Every nerve in Hannah's body screamed that this was a trap, another maneuver by the lurking darkness. Yet she couldn't ignore the clarity in its eyes, a glimmer of shared pain. "Mom, I don't like it." Tommy whimpered, his voice shaking through the oppressive quiet. "Stay behind me," Hannah urged, stepping forward. She had to know. "If you're trapped here, what can we do?" The figure faltered, its essence blurring, as if it had to struggle just to manifest. "You must confront what binds you to this place, the truth buried in its depths. You have to face your fears, or you'll join me forever." Shivers crawled over Hannah's skin. The truth? Memories of this cabin flooded her mind, happy days twisted into nightmares, laughter twisting into haunting echoes. Could it be that simple? Confront the past, face the figure that had stolen her peace. "Tell me how," she breathed, panic fighting against desperation. She had to protect Tommy at all costs. Before the apparition could answer, the room shuddered, darkness pressing in colder than the storm outside. Hannah staggered back, a dreadful realization settling over her like a heavy blanket. This was not going to be easy. With every heartbeat, the shadows contorted around the figure, pulling it back into the folds of the cabin. "Remember," it hissed as the darkness enveloped it entirely. "Your choices have power, they can break the cycle." The figure vanished into the blackness, leaving only the echo of its voice. Hannah snapped her gaze back to the unmistakable shape looming in front of them. The figure remained, waiting. Time to play, it intoned, and the walls wove a cacophony of whispers, terrible secrets clawing at her ears. "Tommy," she said in a half-whisper, holding him tighter. "We have to face him. We have to confront our fear." Her own doubt seeped in, but she forced it down. They needed clarity, strength. The figure chuckled, a low, raspy sound that reverberated against the cabin walls. "What will you offer, to escape this place?" Hannah hesitated. What could they possibly give? Memories, hopes, dreams, the very essence of their lives had led them here. A chill ran down her spine. "We want to leave," she shouted defiantly, unconsciously stepping forward. "Leave? But who would take your place?" It smiled, cruel and all-knowing, as the walls began to close in again, tightening around them with an almost tangible hunger. "I'll never let you have him." Hannah screamed, her mind racing. The shadows converged, their tendrils reaching out, testing the bounds of her resolve. A glimmer of an idea sparked in her mind, the truth of what had happened here, the buried emotions of loss and regret. Hannah knew what she had to do. She had to face it, harness it. "I'll tell you," she declared, her voice resolute. "I'll tell the truth of why we came here. I'll face the pain." The figure shifted, intrigued, revealing hints of anticipation in its grotesque smile. A sacrifice. Then, with the echoes of her own voice swirling in the shadows, Hannah summoned memories, dark and painful, the raw moments she had buried deep. Each admission twisted in the air, pulling the figure closer, entangling it in the very fabric of her revelation. In the heart of the chaos, Hannah's strength began to rise, a flicker of hope kindled as she realized the path forward was about her acceptance of what once was. But as the cabin trembled and shadows writhed, did she have the strength to overcome? Could opening her heart lead to deliverance, or would it seal their fate? "Tell us more," Hannah, the figure crooned, its presence insistent as darkness closed its grip. With one last glance at Tommy, the question lingered heavy in the air: could the truth truly break the cycle, or had she only unwittingly awakened something far worse? The air thickened, pressing down on Hannah like a weight before a storm. The figure loomed, its form swelling and shrinking, almost impatient, like a predator waiting for its moment. Every whispered word rattled through her, it felt like the cabin itself held its breath in anticipation. "Tell us more, Hannah," it coaxed, the shadows writhing eagerly as if they yearned to consume her. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. We came here to hide." Her voice trembled but clamped down on her fear. "After the accident. We thought this place could be our sanctuary." As the words left her mouth, the walls shuddered, and they seemed to amplify with a low growl. The shadows responded with a primal energy, shifting and swirling, thirsty for her confession. "Sanctuary?" The figure laughed, a horrific sound that echoed cruelly. "This place thrives on your despair. It feeds on it." Hannah's heart raced, her mind flashing back to that fateful day. The car crashed. The screams. It was a bitter truth she had tried to forget. "The guilt, I thought it would wash away here," she said, pausing, the memory unraveling her resolve. "I thought I could save Tommy from the pain." Tommy's wide eyes flickered with fear. "Mom, please." He pleaded, pressing against her side. "This isn't right." Hannah shouted, lurching forward as the whispers escalated, pressing against her ears. "You don't own us." "Yes, I do." The figure grinned wider, its mouth stretching inhumanly. "You've given me your fear, your loss. And now, I want more." Hannah felt the cabin shift, the very foundation beneath them trembling. The walls closed in again, sharp and threatening like the jagged remains of her sorrow. She needed a distraction. "What about you?" she yelled defiantly. "What are you really?" It hesitated, the gleam in its eyes dimming. I was once like you. I came here seeking refuge. But I never left." The admission sent a cold shiver rippling through Hannah. "Just like the other, the one who begged for help." "Yes. We are the shadows of your guilt. We are those you have lost, confined forever in this prison of despair." Each word dripped with malice, stirring the air thick with resentment. "No." Hannah screamed, tears burning trails down her cheeks. "You're not going to take him too." The figure lunged forward, fingers elongating. "But you're already losing him. Face it. You fear the memories. Leave him alone." Hannah shouted, instinctively pushing Tommy behind her, the raw energy of a mother's love igniting an adrenaline rush in her veins. "Each truth must be offered up," it hissed, swirling shadows twisting into haunting shapes of loss, an echo of the accident, flashes of joy then of violence. "Your heart bears its weight." The darkness surged, coiling around them, invading her mind. It mixed chaos with regret, threatening to drown her. "No!" she cried, shutting her eyes as she willed herself to remember something else, a flicker of warmth. "Hannah." Tommy's voice was small, frightened. Gathering her strength, she opened her eyes to confront the grotesque face of the figure. "I will not let you win. I'll share the truth, but I'll not surrender to you." The cabin quaked wildly, anger vibrating through the wood, the air thickening with electric tension. Light flickered overhead, shadows shrinking and faltering, exposed by her defiance. "What will you offer instead?" The figure mocked, face contorting in rage, the whispers clamoring for attention, furious at her resistance. Hannah's resolve hardened. "The truth is not just pain," she spat back. "It's love, the love I still hold for my son. The memories don't just bring guilt. They bring hope." At that moment, the entire cabin lurched, caught in a clash between grief and denial. The darkness writhed back, furious, and Hannah felt a shift, a crack forming in the very fabric of the malevolent energy, but it wasn't over yet. The figure drew itself back, looming larger, vengeful eyes narrowing. "You will regret this choice." The lights flickered again, casting long, leering shadows around them. "Tommy, hold on tightly." Hannah shouted as the chaos spiraled around them, terror. Clawing at everything she clung to. As they faced the tempest of shadows, was her love strong enough to break the hold of the past, or would the darkness drag them both down into despair? The whispering crescendo reached a fever pitch, and Hannah braced herself for what was to come, grappling with the terrifying truth that awaited. What had she truly unleashed? The ground shook violently, a deep, growling roar echoing as if the earth itself were in collision with something far more sinister than Hannah could fathom. The shadows weren't just swirling anymore, they were boiling, coiling into tight, menacing spirals. Dread seeped into her bones, her heart pounding against her ribs like a desperate prisoner. "Remember," the figure hissed, words slithering through the air, each syllable laced with venom. "Remember what you tried to forget." What had she unleashed? The question gnawed at her mind while her chest tightened with panic. The walls pressed inward, suffocating and menacing, as if they hungered, ready to swallow her whole. The moment hesitated, a pause where dread and fear intertwined, the spectre basking in its power. "Give in, Hannah," it crooned, the shadows reaching toward her, caressing her skin like icy fingers. "Let the memories consume you. Feel their weight and let go." The cabin seemed to breathe, the warped floorboards creaking beneath her feet, inviting her to surrender. But she couldn't. Tommy was watching, wide-eyed and trembling, clinging desperately to her. His little face embodied her will to fight. "Get away from us!" Hannah shouted, words laced with ferocity, defiance blazing. She couldn't fail him, not again. With a primal roar, she stepped forward, forcing herself into the depths of anguish she had buried. The memories surged up like a tidal wave, each fragment sharp and brutally vivid, the explosion of metal, glass shattering, screams screaming louder than anything. In those snapshots of despair lay the weight of her survival. "It hurts." The figure shrieked in a blend of agony and mirth. "Let it go. Let your sorrow fill me." "No." Hannah managed, voice trembling as she steadied herself. "I won't give you the satisfaction of my pain." In response, shadows erupted from the corners of the cabin, twisting and writhing as they shot toward her like venomous serpents. They entangled her, an icy grip around her throat. She gasped, disbelief crashing into pain, fear clawed at her chest. "I need you to remember the love," she roared, forcing the words past the encroaching darkness. "The laughter, the joy, the life." It was not all despair. Love. The figure's twisted face contorted with rage as the shadows recoiled slightly, unsettled by her conviction. It wasn't enough, its strength only grew, a massive darkness that engulfed her vision, threatening to cut her off from the light. "Tommy!" she cried, her voice breaking as she fought against the shadowy binds. If she didn't find a way to channel the love she felt in the depths of her heart, they were both doomed. She focused on his laughter, the sound rang like a bell, a memory of a time before everything fell apart. "Tommy!" The shadows pulsed violently, an explosion of whispers clawing at her ears, angry and frantic. "You cannot win. Love is weakness. You feed us." "Wrong!" she shouted back, emotion overflowed, fueled by desperation. "Love is my strength. It's what keeps us alive. Then face the consequence of your choice." The figure screamed, and darkness erupted, crashing into her mind like a tsunami. Suddenly, Tommy's small voice broke through, "Mom, don't leave me." A jolt of panic shot through her. She had to protect him. She had to save him from this hell. But how? The cabin screamed as if it were alive, thrumming with energy, shadows writhing under her feet like restless spirits. They needed to fight together, to draw upon the bond that tied them, the love that could cut through the darkness. "Hold on!" Hannah yelled, as the shadows threatened to pull her under. "I'm right here. We won't be taken." But in that moment of defiance, Hannah felt the grip around her twist tighter, something malevolent laughing at her futile resistance. Tommy's whimper rang in her ears, drowning out the chaos, pulling her toward the brink of surrender, or was it hope? The conflict surged again, pushing them both toward a singular fate. Hannah's heart thundered. Was this their last stand? Let go of us! She screamed, gathering every ounce of love and defiance she possessed. Ready to wage war against the darkness threatening to consume their very souls, but the vital question hung in the air, heavy and insidious: would love triumph, or would the shadows claim them forever? The shadows loomed larger, tightening their grip around Hannah. The pressure was suffocating, cold tendrils snaking up her throat. It felt as if 1,000 hands were clutching at her, urging her to surrender. But in those moments of darkness, there was a flicker. Tommy's tiny frame standing defiantly beside her, his eyes wide with pure, unfiltered love. "Focus on me, Mom," he shouted, voice shaking but strong. "We can beat it together." Her heartbeat raced, a wild cadence blending with the sinister whispers that filled the cabin. It was as if the house itself breathed with anticipation, watching their struggle like a spectator to a twisted game. "Together," Hannah echoed. She dug deep, searching her mind for memories that would solidify their bond, drawing strength from each precious moment they shared. She remembered the way Tommy giggled as they played hide and seek, how he curled up on her lap during rainy afternoons, and the sheer joy in his eyes when she cheered him on during his first soccer game. "Remember," she shouted, her words a lifeline thrown into turbulent water. "Remember all the good. The times we laughed. The adventures. We are more than just this pain." As she spoke, a light ignited within her, small at first, but brightening as she held on to those cherished moments. The shadows squirmed, recoiling as if they were flammable, and she held the spark. "Your love," the figure hissed, its voice a chilling harmony of rage and fear. "It's a lie." "No, it's real," she screamed. The light intensified, pushing back against the encroaching dark. She felt the warmth of Tommy's hand in hers, a beacon cut through the cloud of despair. "It's what makes us alive." "Enough!" The specter shrieked, its form vibrating with a malevolent energy that threatened to split the very fabric of reality around them. The cabin seemed to tremble, the walls shaking, gravel pouring from cracks as if the whole place were coming apart at the seams. "Tommy!" Hannah cried, terror clawing at her lungs as the shadows lurched closer, an unstoppable tide. "Stay with me. Hold my hand." His grip tightened. "I won't let go." His voice was fierce now, a small warrior standing against the abyss. The shadows paused momentarily, quaking before his determination. Hannah saw it then, a glimmer of silver, just beyond the shadows, a sliver of the world outside this nightmare. It flickered like a beacon of hope. "Look!" She pointed, and in that instant, their shared strength surged like wildfire. Together, they stepped toward the light, the shadows swirling in furious confusion around them. Dread filled the air as darkness tightened, but they pushed forward. It was a race against time, a battle of wills fought upon the precipice of despair. The light grew brighter, breaking through the murk, and the walls around them seemed to melt under its power. "Keep going," Hannah urged, adrenaline amplifying her every word as they charged toward the light. "Don't let go." Their feet pounded against the warped boards, the light ahead pulsing as if it had a heartbeat, desperate, determined. The cabin bellowed as if it were tearing apart. Just as they reached the threshold of the encroaching light, the darkness screamed, a wretched sound that rattled Hannah's very bones. "You can't escape." With a final thrust, they lunged into the light, and the shadows twisted in impotent fury behind them. The world shifted like a camera lens adjusting, blurring for a heartbeat before snapping into focus. A scene unfolded. A soft, grassy meadow stretched before them, bright sunlight pouring over lush green hills. It smelled of earth and freedom, but the air crackled with lingering tension. "Did we make it?" Tommy questioned, his eyes darting around, searching for danger. The innocence in his voice mixed with dread. Hannah felt her heart drop as she scanned their surroundings, recognizing the familiar warmth of home in the distance. "I think so, but we're not safe yet." Before she could process what came next, the ground trembled again, but this time it was different, a heartbeat, steady and menacing. Suddenly, a shadow-length figure emerged at the edge of the meadow, its smile twisted and gleeful. Did you think you could run? It taunted, too all-knowing. You can never escape me. Hannah froze, heart racing. Was this battle really over, or just beginning anew? An overwhelming sense of dread surged within her. They had fought against the darkness before. Would they manage to confront it again? Time seemed to ripple around them, entangling her, and the question hung heavy in the air, how long before the shadows found them again? The laughter faded into sinister echoes, swallowed by the vast expanse of the meadow. Hannah felt the gravity of their situation like a weight pressing against her chest. The figure loomed larger, twisting in on itself like a dark tornado, its smile transforming into something grotesque, a harbinger of pain. "Tommy, run!" she barked, her instinct for survival kicking in. But he stood, frozen, as the shadows around the figure seemed to pulse and breathe, exhaling dread. "Where do we run, Mom?" he pleaded, his small voice trembling. "What if it catches us?" Hannah clenched her fists, life pouring into her veins as she stepped in front of him. "We don't give it that chance." The creature's laughter echoed sharp and grating. "Oh, my dear, you can't hide from what you've awakened. Your light is but a flickering flame against my eternal night." As the creature spoke, shadows stretched toward them, sharp and jagged like claws, reaching hungrily. Hannah's heart thundered against her ribcage, each pulse an urgent reminder of the danger. "Remember the laughter," she shouted, forcing her memories to the forefront. "Remember every warm hug, every moment of joy." And with that, the memories ignited her spirit. She felt the warmth surround her, each cherished moment powering her resolve. The shadows recoiled, as if repelled by her influx of love. But before she could breathe a sigh of relief, the ground beneath them trembled again, a deep, rumbling vibration that reverberated in her bones. The meadow seemed to fracture, grass wilting and cracking like dried parchment. They needed to move now. "Come on, Tommy." She took his hand, his warmth anchoring her. They sprinted toward the nearby woods, the trees appearing as ancient sentinels, their branches swaying ominously in the approaching storm of darkness. "Where are we going?" Tommy gasped, his little legs working hard to keep up. "Anywhere but here," Hannah shouted, adrenaline coursing through her. They dove into the thicket, pushing past thorny bushes that snagged at their clothes. The air pressed heavily against them, thick and suffocating, whispering words that twisted their nerves. Hannah peered back over her shoulder, the creature's silhouette looming in the meadow, thorny vines sprouting from the ground, crackling with energy as they reached toward her. The shadows were relentless, an army that would not be denied. "Faster, Mom." Tommy's voice quivered with panic. She felt his grip tighten, anchoring her even as terror gripped her heart. Twisting through the trees, desperation made her narrative clearer. The darkness was alive, and they had to find something, anything to fight back. Her thoughts raced. There had to be something in this forest, something beyond the creeping despair. A place where her memories could harness enough light to push back the void. "Look!" She spotted a flicker of color, a house, its roof barely visible through the dense foliage, surrounded by a halo of sunlight battling the shadows. "Is it safe?" Tommy asked, eyes wide, scanning the treetops. "Better than the alternative." Hannah pulled him along, praying it was more than just a mirage. As they reached the clearing, something felt wrong. The air thickened, making it hard to breathe. The house stood decayed, half consumed by wild vines and moss, a putrid scent wafting towards them. Yet somehow, it felt familiar, an uncanny echo in her gut. The front door creaked open, swinging wide on its rusty hinges. "Welcome home," a voice whispered from within, eerily familiar yet unmistakably sinister. Shadows spilled from the doorway like a haunting invitation, swirling and beckoning. "No, no," she hissed under her breath. But was there a chance? Could this cursed place hold their salvation or doom them to darkness forever? "Stay close, Tommy," she whispered, terror weaving through her veins as dread pooled in her stomach. They stepped inside the threshold, the shadows racing to welcome them, mysteries piled up with each step, and she felt the walls quiver with anticipation. Then, the eerie voice returned, mocking, "Welcome to the beginning of the end." The door slammed shut behind them. In the absolute silence that followed, one question hung heavily in the air: would they escape the shadows again, or was this finally it? The darkness swallowed them whole. As they stepped inside, the air turned frigid, wrapping around Hannah like icy fingers. Tommy shivered beside her, his breath a visible mist. The shadows coiled along the walls, alive, writhing to the rhythm of an unseen pulse. "Mom, I don't like this." His small voice wavered, fear seeping into each word. "Me neither, buddy." She forced a smile, though dread gnawed at her insides. "We have to find a way out. Just stay close." The suffocating silence was punctuated by creaking wood as if the house were alive, groaning under the weight of its secrets. Flickering lights struggled above, casting eerie shadows that danced grotesquely on the peeling wallpaper. Each corner seemed to harbor whispers, low and malicious, taunting their presence. "What's that?" Tommy pointed toward the end of the hallway, where a dim light flickered through the gloom. A sense of urgency thrummed between them. The way back was blocked by shadows, but the light beckoned like a beacon. "Let's check it out," Hannah whispered, gripping his hand tighter. As they walked, the floorboards creaked ominously beneath them. Each step felt like a countdown, a reminder that they were in a race against the darkness that clawed at their backs. The light emanated from a small room, its door slightly ajar. Hannah pushed it open, revealing what appeared to be a small study. Dust motes danced in the air, swirling in the weak light. Shelves lined the walls, cluttered with tomes bound in cracked leather, their spines cracked and models of bygone days. "What are these?" Tommy murmured, pointing at the array of oddities on the desk, a collection of fragile trinkets, each one more sinister than the last. An old compass spun wildly, far removed from magnetic north, as if guided by a force unseen. Hannah's heart raced. "I don't know, but let's look for something we can use." She began rifling through drawers filled with strange objects, dried herbs, broken mirrors, and an assortment of tarnished keys. Each item felt like a relic of horror, whispering secrets of those who had come before them. Suddenly, a flicker caught her eye: a journal, its yellowed pages fluttering ominously as if urging her to turn them. She opened it, breath hitching as the handwriting revealed fragmented thoughts steeped in fear, talk of shadows that took your essence, weaving nightmares into reality. What shot through her was a line that read, "Once welcomed, never let go." Hannah's throat tightened. Was she playing with forces far beyond her understanding? Had they unwittingly invited these horrors in with them? "Mom!" Tommy's voice jolted her back. He stood by the window, wide-eyed. "Look!" Outside, the meadow had transformed into a swirling tempest of shadows, the creature's grotesque form visible now. It twisted and churned, its laughter echoing wildly, taunting their presence. "You thought you could escape?" it shrieked, its voice like ice scraping glass. "Tommy, we need to hide." Hannah yanked him down, pushing them behind the desk as the room trembled with the creature's fury. The shadows twisted and coiled through the floorboards, reaching, searching for them. Then came a knock at the door. A soft, insistent tapping. Their hearts raced. "Is someone there?" The eerie voice of a man echoed from beyond the threshold, a voice layered with a familiarity that turned her stomach. "Help us!" Tommy whispered, his innocence igniting desperation. "Mom, we can't leave him out there." "No." Hannah hissed, pulling him closer as the tapping grew more frantic. "It's a trick." But her words fell flat against the growing noise, the creature's laughter combining with the knocking, now a macabre symphony swelling around them, and then, the walls began to shake. "You will join the dance," the figure rasped, and shadows poured through the door as if eager to consume everything in sight. Hannah's mind raced. Is the key to survival locked in this room? Or would the darkness lure them deeper into its grasp? Time was running short and choices had to be made. But just then, she remembered something from the journal. A name. Tied to a ritual, one that could unleash or contain the very darkness that threatened to engulf them. "Tommy, we have to say it together," she urged, praying it wouldn't lead them to their demise. "Say what?" he asked, eyes darting with confusion and fear. "Whatever happens, we can't let it win, not now." As the shadows inched closer, so did the sound of the tapping now growing into a fierce pounding. Would they dare to utter a name that might either bind them to the shadows or set them free? Hannah's heart raced as she leaned closer to Tommy, matching her breath to his as they clutched hands tightly. "We have to call the name, baby. It's our only hope." Tommy's wide eyes shimmered with fear, but he nodded, his small frame bold against the encroaching darkness. "Okay, Mom." "On three," she whispered, squeezing his hand. 1, 2, 3. "Gabriel." They shouted together, their voices ringing out in defiance against the shrieking shadows that threatened to engulf them. For a moment, silence enveloped the dusty room. The tapping at the door ceased, and the laughter faded into an eerie stillness. The shadows recoiled, twisting away from them, as if something ancient and powerful had been stirred. Hannah could feel the air tremble, charged with energy. A warm light began to pool in the center of the room, bright and beckoning. Tommy's eyes sparkled, reflecting the shift in the atmosphere. But just as hope flickered, a menacing growl rumbled outside, and the grotesque figure materialized at the door, its grin wide, far too wide. "Did you really think that name could save you?" It cackled, the sound disturbing like the crack of thunder. Just like that, the shadows surged once more, thick and ravenous, pouring into the study as the creature advanced. The walls shook, plaster cracking and falling like brittle leaves. "No. We won't let you take him," Hannah shouted, her voice raw with desperation. The light pulsed in response, expanding like a shield before her. "Together, remember." She encouraged Tommy as the warmth wrapped around them, fortifying their resolve. As if fueled by their unity, a brilliant beam shot from the floor, striking the figure dead on. "Stop!" it howled, the shadows recoiling violently. "You'll regret this." But Hannah felt it, the love. The memories. Each laugh echoed back across time, creating a tapestry of resilience. She closed her eyes tightly, picturing all the affection, joy, and moments shared with Tommy, the innocent giggles, the bedtime stories, the vacations. Every heartwarming instant rose like a tidal wave against the encroaching dark. "Don't look back, Tommy," she whispered fiercely. "We can beat it. Together." He echoed, determination swelling in his voice. And then it happened. The shadows trembled as if wrested from their power. Light erupted from their hands, forming a radiant bridge that pushed against the horror. The figure shrieked in rage, thrashing violently against the light as if it were water burning under sunlight. Hannah's heart raced faster, matching Tommy's fervent resolve. "Believe in us," she cried, summoning every ounce of her strength. "We are stronger than the darkness." The shadows began to dissolve, the twisted shapes retreating as the figure lost its grip. "No!" it roared, its malignant form thinning and twisting in the blaze of their unity. "This is not the end." But as the shadows warped, Hannah felt the weight of the cabin lift, freeing her from its clutches. "Yes, it is," she shouted. "We choose love, hope, and life over despair. You are nothing." With one final, defiant push, they sent out a blinding burst of brilliance that exploded forth, consuming the figure, shattering the very essence of the darkness. The walls of the cabin shook and screamed as if reality were tearing apart. In a flash, the study was gone, plunged into nothingness, and Hannah and Tommy stumbled into the sunlight. They landed on soft grass, laughter echoing around them. Their home, the meadow, stretched out, vibrant and alive, untouched by darkness. The storm clouds dissipated, replaced by a warm golden glow. Tommy blinked, dazed but free. "We did it, Mom." He gazed wide-eyed at the breathtaking scene around them. The shadows were gone, but so too was the eerie house. Hannah wrapped her arms around Tommy, relief washing over her like a cool breeze. "We did," she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. They stood in the sunlight, connecting with the safety of the world, but somewhere deep inside, Hannah felt a tether, a reminder that the darkness was never fully gone. She had faced it, but it lingered, waiting. "Let us go home," she said softly, her heart full of gratitude and pain, a promise to be mindful of what lived in the corners of their memories. The shadows wouldn't define them anymore. As they walked toward their house, a new chapter awaited. Hannah held on to Tommy's hand, fiercely, lovingly, ready for whatever came next. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any more heart-stopping tales like this. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your thoughts. What did you think of this ending? Did you expect it? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the word together.